7:03, I call this meeting of May 16th, 2022, Foxborough Conservation Commission meeting open. Do we have any minutes to go through first?
Well, we do, except probably the fastest thing you could possibly do is the Chestnut Street Trail
Okay.
sign.
Do you want to?
Look on your agent's report.
Yep.
I've spoon-fed it.
Okay. I'll open discussion to the Chestnut Street Trail sign.
Want me to, would you like to describe, or shall I explain, or shall I explain?
I can do it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kay Andberg with the Rotary Club of Foxborough, and we've been working with Jane, and we came before you a year ago, well, I guess 9 months ago, regarding the extension trail between Chestnut Street and the Lane property, and we've rerouted it slightly with Jane's okay to make it a little more upland, so that our hopes are to remove that section of heavy bridge that is in that very first spot, if you recall that area. It's not the one that goes over the stream. It's just in a wet spot, and it's kind of impeding the drainage in that area. So come before you really, so if you could move forward on the name of the trail, because we're going to make signage at the near the street, and then also where it meets with the main trail near the dam. And so it's been some discussion with Jane and I and other people, and I was hoping that it could be named like the Neponset View Trail, because my whole impetus between doing this is to get people from town to realize that they can walk to this beautiful property. And so that's what's before you. Or if you have a good name yourselves.
I completely agree with that. David had mentioned that somewhere in the minutes a long time ago, they were going to name the trail after a certain person that really none of us know anymore. And I couldn't find it anywhere, and it did receive some state grants. So the one thing it should have is a little state emblem or something like that that talks about that it receives state funding. And we should probably have that on all of our signs that receive state funding. Way back when, they didn't require that, but they had a specific kind of sign that you can see at the opening to this. Also, you were thinking about putting the sign closer to the street somehow?
Right, so currently there is a whitish decaying sign that says Town of Foxborough Conservation Land, and it's far back, right at the entrance of like the wood part of the trail. And we were thinking it'd be better to move it forward. There's a couple of trees, one snag and a tree that's closer to the road. So with hopes that people would notice that this is an area to go to.
Yeah, the thing with this parcel is, and I'd have to go out there and walk it, I couldn't figure out where the bound of the railroad easement or land, whatever it is located. But seems to me, I walked it before, and essentially the driveway that goes to the house there, I believe it goes over conservation land. So if there were a good place to put this where we know it's on conservation land, probably in front of that tree, then people wouldn't feel so concerned about driving on someone else's property. I've talked to the abutter, and I've explained to him that, you know, the land, it's not actually his driveway from what I can gather, and he understands that. I just want to make sure we're not stepping on anyone's toes, because the boundary marker that was supposed to be at the corner of the property is no more from what I could tell. It supposedly was a stone bound, but there's a little stone wall in that location, so. A couple little minor glitches, but I think the most important one would be the name of the trail. I think saying, you know, kind of having the where you're going, the name of the trail would make the most sense of all.
I agree.
I agree too.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
And they're doing a great job, by the way. They rerouted the trail to the upland area.
We did
They're
that in
gonna-
the fall, so that it, and And then we wanted to wait to make sure we knew where the drainage issues are, and so we're going to have to add some stones in one wet spot.
They're going to add some stepping stones.
Yeah, some stepping stones, yeah, that's,
We're being very careful to do this in such a way that is in keeping with the commission's trail maintenance type of requirements, not in a way that makes people say, oh, I could do that at my house.
yeah.
And they've done a really good job of it.
And then the sign it would be like the other old, like wooden signs with the white, carved out white letters, that type of thing, which are on the other properties.
And I told you already, didn't I, that we have one of our Eagle Scouts created a template
I do
for
have,
them?
yeah, I have that, yeah.
Okay, with all the specs, which was awesome.
Right.
Excuse
you.
me.
So should we move forward on that then?
I think so. Do we have
Okay.
to, do we have to take any sort
Right.
of action? on a vote,
Well, you guys
or-
should probably vote on the name of the, and what I can do is, if and when we have an older trail map, but I could add a little blurb about, if I can actually find documentation of that person's name, I can make a blurb that it was dedicated at that time to this person.
Okay.
But it's the view shed type of thing is the reservoir.
So we're making a motion to approve the name of, calling it the Neponset View Trail? Is that the idea?
I'd like it.
Neponset Reservoir View Trail?
I don't know how well that will all fit. That's what I was like, that's why, it's a really long name, so that's why I was just
I
trying to
think
cut
that's
it.
fine, Neponset View
Few.
Trail.
And then if you want to think about whether or not that's the same name that you want at like the Lane property area, so that that trail goes from like North Street to Chestnut, that's another thought for you, or if you just want it to be that one leg.
That one leg, I think, is what you want, because I don't know if the other trails are named, but
For now.
for now,
Yeah.
I would, yeah. Just where it goes, like you said, just where it turns from the peninsulas out
Right.
there.
I think it's a great idea, because I've driven by that so many times, seen people park there, like, can you go there, can you not go there? But I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't know that you can get to the trail from that spot, so.
Right.
They used to say that about the Lane property, too.
I know.
I mean, these
Sure.
places that look
Gorgeous.
private, yeah.
Right.
All right, I make a motion to accept the proposal by the Foxborough Rotary Club for the Chestnut Street Trail sign, calling it Neponset View Trail.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right?
Aye.
And I'll look into the
Right, you're
requirements
And Jeff.
for the little, I'm sure there must be a little blip that you can
Will-
stick on something.
Okay.
Thank you
so
very much.
Okay.
And get me out there and I'll try and we can figure out where the boundary is.
Jeff, what say you?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, next on the agenda for general business, John Gonsalves, the proposed Eagle Scout project.
John, you want to pull a microphone close to you?
Yeah.
There you go.
Why don't you take a chance to introduce yourself and give us an idea of what you're proposing?
Hello, my name is John Gonsalves. I am currently a Boy Scout with Life Scout in Boy Scout Troop 32. Thank you for having me tonight to discuss the possibilities of my Eagle Scout project. First, I would like to give you a few pictures to help you better understand what I would like to do, if I may.
Sure, yeah, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the area highlighted on picture 1 in blue is the location I would like to beautify. It is the area towards the end of the Storybook Trail and is where a house used to sit. It is currently overgrown and has what looks like to be the remains of bricks and debris from the house. I would like to clean up this area, level it out to make it usable for groups and passable for trail users. Currently, hikers have to skirt around this overgrown section wherein they come to this part of the trail. Pictures 2 and 3 show that the area has a small tree that will remain and in years come to provide shade for the area. Also some larger rocks that will remain on site. I will not be cutting down any trees. In picture 4, you can see that there's thorny bushes and overgrowth that makes it difficult to walk. Any small brush, sticks, or leaves can be left on property to decompose and provide housing and or food for insects and small animals. There are some fallen trees in the path that can be moved off the path so hikers can get through, but also left on site and possibly to line the trail. Once this area is clean and somewhat level, I would like to put down some pine chips. This is conservation friendly and they will not have a negative effect on this area as it is pine. This will make the area more usable to anyone who wishes to use the area as a gathering place. It will also make the trails that pass through the area more defined and safer to use. As with any Eagle Scout project, the work will be led by myself with the help of my troop members, friends, and family. I would like to start work soon after my project is approved by you guys and the Mayflower Council Eagle Board. I will hope to have it finished by the end of fall this year, weather permitting. Does the board have any questions for me?
Do you want to give your thoughts?
All right, I'll give you my thoughts.
Yeah.
I was out there today, and one of the things that struck me is the site has a couple of problems and a couple of good things. And the problems are there's an awful lot of invasive species, particularly wisteria vines everywhere. And there's also buckthorn and bittersweet vines. So my thought would be, I would love to get the area cleared of the invasives, and I can actually go out there and put a little ribbon on every one that's invasive. So that way, you know, you're teaching the kids, the group, about the issues with invasive vines that take over all of the natives. And you're also chopping at them and having a good old time because there's a lot to it. You know, you cut them at the base. I like to mostly aggravate invasive plants. I don't like using herbicides, so you have to keep after them, but to get it chopped back would be tremendous help. And the only thing with that is you'd have to bag it up and then dispose of it properly because it would be able to grow somewhere else. So that's what I consider the main problem. There's also poison ivy. So that's something that you'd need to be aware of, and I'm happy to go out there with you. But the good things are, one of our fastest disappearing habitats is early successional habitat. And when I was out there today, I was really shocked to see that there's an awful lot of low-bush blueberries growing, native plants, native forbs, all sorts of neat things over there that I think could be enhanced really nicely by you guys. Also, the place that you pointed out, the tree, that used to be a garden because the people that lived there were the Lanes, and I guess they actually wrote a book called This is Foxborough or something like that. And they had some nice gardens there. And there's also a clump of fantastic blueberry bushes that the previous tenants used to pick and eat. Unfortunately, a couple of invasive plants are growing through there that should be cut. So I think this is a great opportunity to get the site cleaned up, if you will, but also enhanced for the native habitat. I noticed it had been mown, it looks like. The trail was really easy to walk on. I had no problem, and it follows the storybook trail. So I think that, oh, and there's also one other place that's on the main. I think if you guys were to concentrate on invasive species removal, there's one large cluster of invasive honeysuckle vines that are on the main road down to the dam. And they're right next to an area that had, I counted, at least 100 lady slippers. So it's just one annoying patch, and when you catch them early, then you can get rid of these things. So if that sounds interesting to you, I think that that would work
Yeah, that
really,
seems
really
like,
well.
Yeah, it seems like something I can probably try to fit into this.
Yeah, and I think you'd be accomplishing a few things. You'd be helping me, because I really have been fighting the invasive plants in that area. It's an old farm. That's what you get when you have an old farm. You would be enhancing the habitat and providing better habitat for critters, and you'd also be helping that big patch of lady slippers. And I think it would be, and teaching the kids and teaching people about how important the habitats are. I mean, nature's trying to come back. It's doing a pretty good job, except the invasives are trying to take over too. It's like, who's going to win? We want to help the natives win. So your thoughts?
Yeah, it seems like it is doable. But I
It's a
should-
little bit of a redo for you, but I think that it would really have a whole lot of benefits and really fit in with the Eagle and with the scouting kind of concept of woods and,
And Jane, and your
that.
thoughts there, then he wouldn't be putting down pine chips or mulch at all?
I'd prefer not. Maybe in a couple of small areas, but I don't think it's necessary.
And you mentioned in your agent report, like I'm concerned too about the invasive worms, which particularly in the forested setting, they're really bad for like the root systems of the trees, and so you wouldn't want to bring in something that might end up weakening the ecosystem there. And you can get mulch that doesn't have the invasive worms or their eggs in there, but it's a lot of work to make
It's
sure
trouble.
that it's not,
Yeah.
that you're not bringing it into that area.
That's how a lot of invasive animals are spread, is through wood chips, like the Asian, what is that, the emerald ash borer, egg cases from probably even the gypsy moths and stuff. So if you take the cuttings from the tree companies and such and spread them, it sounds like a great idea, but they could have come from a place that was infested. That's why you guys, I'm sure, only use wood that's locally sourced when you have your campfires and such. And I know the campgrounds require that as well. So it's really complicated, but it's something that's really important to educate people about. So yeah, the wood chip thing, I'm not
That was
really
my only
fond of that.
concern.
I think if there are areas that were there or something like that, maybe putting down some, native grass seeds, warm season grass seed would work. And then, it would be nice to have an area that could be mown once a year to keep the early successional habitat down. You can mow it high. But, I'm pretty impressed with the way it's coming back, considering all the invasive plants in the area. And I'm sorry I haven't been able to meet with you. I'm happy to meet with you about it out there and such.
And we're not really thinking about a location for a campsite, right?
I initially thought that would make a great campsite, because I was opposed to having a campsite on the water. I thought that didn't really jibe with the whole environmental thing. But Rick Lewis recently told me that the reason they had their scouting, the camping down by the water, is because the breeze from the lake would blow the mosquitoes away.
Gotcha.
And, it looks like the brush and the buffer zone is growing back in the old campsite there. Personally, I think that there's a really great campfire ring up at that house lot that the previous tenants built. I think that's the best place to have one, but I think that there's going to be a balance somehow. There are other places that could be used. And maybe this will work out that it could be used as a campsite, who knows? But I wouldn't want to have it leveled or anything like that. Just get rid of all the invasive plants.
Okay. All right, so you guys will work together on sort of modifying the plan, and then have John come back, maybe to our next meeting,
Okay.
and present the new plan, or revised plan.
So that's in what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we can meet. I want an excuse to get outside in this nice weather anyway. I've been stuck to my desk. But I'm all about education, because no one's going to know about these things unless they are taught. And how better to teach anyone than a group of young people who are learning, who will take care of the world after us.
Great. This is great.
Cool. I think it's great. Thank you.
All right. See you in a few weeks. Thanks for coming in. Jump back to the request for determination at this point, or are we going to continue to work through?
You gotta do the hearing.
We should do the hearing. Yeah. That'll take 2 seconds.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
night.
you, Joe. Yep.
Yeah, the other 2 things are fast.
It being almost 7:24. We have a request for determination for 32 Connie Drive. David Feldman. This is for an addition to an existing single-family home.
Good evening, I'm Rich Leslie with Bay Colony Group, representing David and Ellen Feldman. The site's located, it's at the end of Connie Drive, and it does have bordered vegetated wetlands on the south and the east side. It originally developed, I believe, back in the 90s. And what we're doing now with this is there's an existing deck out back of the kitchen, and they're looking to expand the kitchen. So putting that expansion is going to cover a good portion of the deck. And there'll be no close, I mean, the previous notice of intents, they've come in here for the pool and everything else, and they've obtained certificate of compliance for that. So we're not going anywhere closer to the wetlands than the existing structures, and it's going to be in place of an existing deck.
It's a no-brainer.
We thought so.
Paper trail is good, but it should qualify as exempt minor activity because it's in an area previously disturbed between a pool and a house.
I'll just go through the commission and see if anybody has any questions or comments. Rich?
I'm good with it. No.
I'll say Rebecca.
I'm fine with it.
Jeffrey?
I'm all set.
Peter?
Looks good to me.
All right. I'm all set as well. Does anybody want to make a motion to issue a negative determination?
I'll issue the motion for a negative determination on 32 Connie Drive, map 054P016.
Second that. Anybody want to second that?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
A little more than 20 seconds.
Here you go, sir.
Have a good night.
So,
Rich, I'll write down that you got billed for the whole hour.
And travel time. And travel. Right. What are we doing with
Here early.
the Routes 195 one?
They're all on Zoom.
Oh, they are, okay, they're on Zoom, okay. All right, it being 7:10, this is a continued hearing on Routes I-95 and I-495. This is a notice of intent, DEP number 157-615. This is Mass DOT Highway Division. This is proposed work on an existing stormwater BMPs north of exit 13B on I-95 and Swale and I-495 median adjacent to Robinson Brook.
Hello. How are you guys tonight, Commissioner?
If you state your name for the record.
My name is Hong Pham. I am the acting stormwater program coordinator for Mass DOT Highway Division. And I am here to more or less accept the drafted order of condition that was sent to my consultant earlier. I think it's today.
So I was not here at the last meeting hearing. Do you want to?
basically, they're upgrading the stormwater, they're
Oh.
to better clean the water, and I'm assuming comply better with the NIPD's requirements? Is that the bottom line for this? Or is it the MVP? Or?
Yeah, I apologize for not recapping the project as a whole. So the project is intended to provide water quality treatment to the existing roadway within Mass DOT. And this was selected based on our reevaluation of the condition with the area. And the stormwater will be treating, the project will be treating the stormwater to the maximum extent practical.
So that ends up in Robinson Brook, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a very sad brook. Anything help it can get will be good.
Were there any suggested changes at the last meeting?
I don't,
Modifications to the plan or?
modifications, I think, were brought up by you, correct? You said that it was
Yes,
going to be a minor
so,
modification.
Yeah, I apologize for speaking out of turn. On the 10th, I did call you out of rushness on internal discussion, and there had been more, and we will be pursuing the project on how we presented last time.
All right, you had said something about catch basins or manhole covers or something like that that was going to change. So if that does change, you were going to send that to me beforehand so I could incorporate it into the order of conditions, which I didn't receive, so I assumed wasn't happening. But if you do want to make a change in the future, we have standard boilerplate conditions about if you have any changes to X, Y, and Z, then you do X, Y, and Z.
Okay,
It's in the order.
thank you.
It's just basically a boilerplate conditions I've put in it.
Thank you. Yeah, I read through it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Rich, you all set with this?
Yep.
Rebecca?
Yep.
Jeff?
Yep.
Peter?
All set?
Do you want to make a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing on DEP 157-615.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, and by the way, I didn't tell you this, but because this is just a technicality,
Yep.
they consented to continue it to today so that I could draft the order of conditions and get it out within the 21-day requirement without having to jump through hoops.
Okay.
It was just,
That's what I was trying to remember, like, there was,
yeah, it was just an
we had
administrative, easier way of doing it.
right.
All right, I think you're all set. We'll issue an order. Today, right?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Today wouldn't have made it.
Tomorrow.
That's why.
All right.
Maybe it would have.
Well,
Thank you very
thank
much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you,
You too.
Commissioners. You too.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All
You
right.
should make a motion to endorse the order of conditions
All right, I'll make an order
as
to
presented, or
endorse the order of conditions that was issued for or to be issued for 157-615.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Such a sticker for detail.
All right, we have no minutes.
He knows her
well, you
stuff.
can
Dave's
do,
not here.
Jane had sent out March 7th and April 4th. Dave wasn't here on April 4th, and I think he was okay with March 7th, so.
Yeah, I think he was okay with March 7th. I tweaked it a bit. And
I looked through yours, it looked good to me, what you proposed.
If someone wants to make a motion to approve the March 7th meeting minutes,
Make a motion to approve March 7th meeting minutes as presented.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. What else do we have?
we have,
April 4th was a 2-page.
You want to do that as well? Okay. All right, if anybody wants to make a motion to approve the April 4th, 2022 meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve the April 4th, 2022 minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The NRRC, Rich,
Is that you?
are you doing that, or is someone coming?
What are we doing on it?
they asked to be put on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, they should be here.
They should.
Huh.
Well, I sent you the update that was forwarded to me by Rich, Ken Wagner's update. I guess he said that the new fantastic treatment that they used did a really good job on the milfoil.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
That's great.
And hopefully it'll stop them from, reduce the amount of chemicals in the next 2 or 3 years.
That'd be good.
So did they apply it to the Neponset?
Yes,
They did?
last year.
Last
Last
year,
year, they did like a whole lake treatment.
Great.
Almost a whole lake.
Wasn't the whole lake.
They
It
didn't
was
do the
co-
cove
no, no.
by the water department.
Right, right.
What about the end near Edward Street?
Edward Street,
It's like with the new boat launch, that cove that comes out of there?
I believe they did. I'm not quite sure,
Right.
but I believe they did, yeah.
Why is it thick?
Yeah.
I thought it was
That's
pond
lily
weeds.
pads in there.
I thought that
No,
was
I thought
pond,
there's
the
milfoil
curly
in
leaf
there.
pond
Is
leaf
there?
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Not a ton, but, I mean, I found some. Digging my lures out of them, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know
sure
where
it's
they-
better than it was, you know, it's,
Yeah, I don't know where they are.
Okay.
Because they wanted to,
How about the encroachments onto conservation land? Is it?
That's a huge problem, and I need your input because it's not going to be popular, but it's not popular with me when conservation land is encroached upon. So this favorite story of mine started when I noticed that it looked like there was a large encroachment onto conservation land from a house on White's Farm Lane. And I found that by aerial trespass, because the aerial photos are awesome, and you can really figure out what's going on in the world. And so Dave went out, I told Dave about it, so Dave ran out and looked at it, and he got Rich Leslie out there, and Rich checked it, and he said that he couldn't find the survey marker bound that was supposed to be put in, and that it was the most egregious encroachment onto conservation land he'd seen so far. So I happened to be out there last Saturday because that, unfortunately, that area is where one of our rare turtles is living. And we have one that's we're radio tracking. And so my friend who's been donating the transmitter met me out there on Saturday morning to let her go, because he brought her home and brought it back because he's swapping out a 1-year for a 3-year transmitter, and for a number of reasons, that's why we did it. So we were out there and we were looking around, and I happened to find the bound for the conservation land, which in my manager's report is circled in a big circle. So then I felt a little emboldened by finding that, and I walked along the back side of the property, and the owner, who also owns a landscape company, had cleared it all the way back. And if you look at the aerial photos from the time that he moved in 2002, that area, see, the whole area used to be fields and farm fields, in fact, I think. But after he moved in, there was a large area that looked yellow, like it had been scraped or something. And then a beautiful green lawn started to come through. And so when I walked along the back, he was putting down lawn cuttings all along the edge, and he's gone quite a ways into the conservation land and right up to the edge of the riverfront area. So not only is it a conservation encroachment, it's also a riverfront violation. So I've been researching this, and they do this, Weston and Newton the agents gave a presentation on this back in 2014, so I was looking at all their notes. And you have to put all your duckies in a row, kind of like with a wetland violation. And you have to, speak to the person and tell them cease and desist, which I want to do. But I also like to make lemonade out of lemons. So I think if this person was to give be given a cease and desist order to no longer cut or treat or do anything to that lawn, except perhaps mow it once a year after a couple of frosts had occurred. To keep it down, it would stay somewhat of a meadow, probably, which would enhance the area because the invasives in that area, quite frankly, are a mess. I've been going out there a lot to kind of try and figure out where the critters are, mostly in my own time, the rare turtles. And it would be nice to get a trail back there someday because it really is kind of pretty, but it's just unbelievably invaded. So, I mean, we can't do it with just this one site. There are a couple of others. This is just the most critical one, I think, and it's a wetland violation to boot. And if this person owns a landscaping company, you want them to do the right thing when they're doing landscaping for their customers. Basically, land trusts are required to walk their perimeter boundaries every year, take photos, make sure there's no encroachments or any problems, et cetera, et cetera. And it's coming for conservation commissions, except obviously it would be extra time and such. I'm sure David, I could wind him up and let him go. I'm sure he'd love to go around to the bounds. A lot of our boundaries are good because Tom Ashton at the State Forest goes around, and when he marks his boundaries, he also marks ours on the other side of the tree with our little round Foxborough conservation land sign. But it's something to think about. There are areas that are more of a priority than others. Basically, when I was looking at the information in the PowerPoint, it said, just the same as wetland violations, you have a strict set of rules. You have to do your research. You have to put the paperwork all in order and have a good file. You have to ask for permission to go to the site, similar to the other with the violations. And it goes on down from there. Having a policy is helpful because then you can point to the policy and people can know what to expect. And Weston has a whole lot of sample documents that we could incorporate into Foxborough's, which there's one that says, why are you doing this? And didn't I make it look prettier? And, it's questions, facts, the questions and answers, which I can send your way. I was going to make copies tonight, and I didn't get a chance to. So any thoughts on this?
What's the plan with this guy?
Excuse me?
What's the plan for this property?
Well, I would like to, I was speaking to my friend at the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife this morning, and she said that their land enforcement person used to be a policeman. So he really knows his stuff. He goes to the front door, he'll knock on the door, he'll talk to the people. If they're not there, he will leave a card, which is probably what I should do as far as, this is what they do with wetland violations. I'll go to the door with my cease and desist order, and if the person's not there, I'll put it in the door and say, we believe you might have violated the Wetlands Protection Act. Would you please cease and desist all work? Take photos. One of the things that they did have for this which was good, it said, provide a boundary plan, and then come before the commission to discuss how to proceed. And that's what I would like to do. And I don't want to jump ahead of anyone either.
Do we have someone within the town that goes out, like their job is to put in bounds or verify bounds for town property?
I don't believe they do.
Okay.
Normally, it's been, Rich told me that he was surprised when I told him that I found the bound because he couldn't find them when he went out quickly. And he said that was the first open space and open space residential subdivision, apparently. So they were in their infancy. But they were required to put in bounds, and I did find that one. Okay. So I think my job, your job, is to educate people more than anything else. But you don't encroach on other people's property without their permission, whether it's the town or not, whether you're paying taxes or not. So, yeah, that's what I would like to do, and I probably should go out with a couple of you, with a couple muscles, if you're interested, any of you are interested. But people usually are okay with this. They might say I'm picking on them. Some have.
Well, your solution is pretty easy. I mean, they don't have to
Yes.
do anything.
Right.
Just stop, just
Once-
stop.
Yeah, stop and mow it once or twice a
Right.
year.
I noticed that the gazebo that they put in their backyard is right on the boundary line, although
there,
he's
right.
using a part of the area off to the side like a growing area for landscape, because it looked like some had recently been dug. And there's just a ton of dumping. It's really upsetting.
Okay.
So shall I pursue that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So, Jane,
yeah,
so I have a problem with just basically not doing anything.
oh, I do too.
Because,
Oh, what do you mean, this
I mean, no, I
person?
mean, even say, just, you leave it and mow it every once a year. I mean, it's, it's pretty clear from the plot lines that he's way outside of that and he's been doing work.
I
He
agree.
has a landscape company, so he should know better to begin with.
I agree.
And, what do we want it to look like? Is there something we would want it to look like rather than just stop it and mow it once a year?
Well, what could we do? And the main problem I have with that is the invasives in that area, like the house at the very end of the street, which is the next door neighbor, their backyard is almost impenetrable. Now, is that good? Just because the wildlife can hide really well? Maybe. But at the same time, if he stops mowing it, it may, well, maybe it won't. It might start growing the invasives again, because the invasives are really bad back there. If the commission wanted to require him to place native plantings here and there, like native shrubs or a boundary or something, that could be done too. But I think this is all things that would need to be discussed during a hearing.
Right.
And you guys all need to pretty much figure out how you should proceed with this type of a violation. I've got the information from that PowerPoint presentation, and they had a lot of similar looking violations. And what they would do is they would have the people put up, for example, if the fence was over the line, they'd make them put it inside of the line, or a stone wall, or if landscaping or even a play set, like a swing set, was on the property, they'd make them move it, or they would simply make them stop. They'd have little signs that say restoration area, no disturb. So there's a number of things that we could do that would be, that keep it simple, stupid type of thing. And educating a landscape company is the most critical part. And I was appalled when I found out that that's what it was.
But letting it grow back, that's what you've heard that they're recommending, that works.
Well,
Given
essentially,
the situation. So it's not as if we're not,
there are a variety of things that you can do, and you can ask them to plant native plants and restore it, or you can simply ask them to make it a no-disturb zone with permanent bounds. But I got to send you I'll send you that PowerPoint presentation. It's got a lot of really good information in it, and it's very similar to the way you should deal with wetland violations, which are also not very pleasant.
So in this case, could you go and deliver this notice, and then they would come to
Yeah,
a
they'd
meeting? And we
Yes,
just
in
figure it
theory,
out then?
yes.
But-
Yeah. And I know some
And then-
people who know him, who could talk to him.
It was essential, was it meadow essentially when the property was built?
From the looks of it, the old aerial photos show that it was a farm field. The whole area was a farm field. And as you may or may not know, farm fields are almost always surrounded by invasive species in a big way, like especially bittersweet. And that certainly is what the
Yep.
case in this area. There's an awful lot of invasive plants out there. It makes me crazy. But at the disturbed areas is where they go. So at least if he stopped mowing this area, it will grow grasses. Meadows are largely composed of grasses. And, that early successional habitat is one of the fastest disappearing habitats. So, what you guys should probably do is say cease and desist, and then discuss some sort of a management plan, if any. If it's just left to do its thing, then so be it.
I mean, are there, grasses, other things that we would want it to put in there to help move that early succession?
In a perfect world, this particular one here, actually, I'm thinking about it, I would require him to pull all of the clippings and brush and
Yep.
everything else out of there, including the landscaped area, and then to restore the landscaped area by planting warm season grasses, probably.
Right, that's what I would, that's what I was wondering. I mean, I don't want to just leave it if we, because then it's just going to be, be overgrown with the current grass that's there, and then invasives are going to come in. If we put something that we think we want that's going to be a little more sturdy to, and maybe some other plantings.
I think planting the perimeter, the back perimeter with shrubs, particularly red osier dogwoods, because it's along the riverfront area.
Yep.
And that's what is growing there, is red osier, silky dogwoods, and wetland plants in general. But he's cleared right up to the edge of where it dips down, and probably it was the edge of the old farm field, I would suspect. But farm fields don't stay farm fields. We wouldn't have our wonderful fields at Lane if we didn't have our farmer who mowed them.
So should you go forward and send this notice?
If you all agree, I would like to do that. And then I think what I can do is I can send you stuff, digital information that I have about encroachments, and I wanted to put together some good suggestions first. So I can send you some good suggestions to think about, because most of this is going to be just coming to some kind of a consensus of how to go forward with this
Right.
sort of thing.
Yep. Okay.
And it's this step, then this step, then this step that the PowerPoint talked about. At first you put you give the letter after you've done your homework. And then, if they don't comply, then you send something else. And then if they don't comply, you can actually, file,
Yeah, it elevates. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
something else. So,
Okay.
yeah, it elevates, exactly.
Okay.
Hopefully it wouldn't need to.
All right.
But it's all about education, really and truly. It's about education. I've got that whole neighborhood keeping an eye out for the critters that are hanging out about there, and they all embrace it. Most of them really like that. If people knew, they would be more interested in protecting spots.
So we'll issue a cease and desist?
Yes.
And then request them to come
Yes.
to discuss the
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
remedy.
That works. Okay. Review of conservation boundaries?
Well, that was all
That was just
incorporated
part of
into
that?
this.
Okay.
That's probably one of the steps that we should take.
Sort of proactive?
Well, yeah. It's what I think probably Dave used to do that. Dave spent a lot of time out in the woods. Unfortunately, when I go out in the woods, I slow down so much and get too relaxed. And I have way too much fun and feel guilty. So, and everything is so administrative and hand-holding and answering questions and stuff these days. I don't have a lot of time for it.
I mean, ideally, would we come up with sort of a yearly schedule for like checking the, is
Yeah,
that the idea?
that would be nice. I mean, Trustees of Reservations has a tiny little conservation restriction that just is mostly in Sharon, with a little bit in Foxborough, out in the Canoe River Wilderness area. And every year he goes out there for a little trek around the edge of the property and make sure that there have been no encroachments or major issues. And that's what the land trusts are required to do on a yearly basis. And the thought is that towns are going to be required to do that eventually, but probably be cost prohibitive. It'd be nice if people could maybe I can talk some stewards into walking the boundaries. But, we have to make sure that we've got the boundary markers all set and everything, too. I've got all of the files that have it, but,
Exactly.
well, Dave was a stickler, and he did require bounds a lot of bounds, it seems. It's just finding them.
Okay, then last is,
Oh, I just want to make sure on the
oh.
same page, good.
I have canceled the 25th of July meeting,
Most important.
most importantly.
That is most important, yes.
So you guys are away, that's what's going on.
Unless you want to take notes, too.
Yeah, you guys could do what I used to do in Holliston. You could all take the notes and be the
Yeah, I don't think
secretary
so.
and run the
I
whole
think
show.
that would
and-
work very well.
25th.
It would be for good reading. that's for
It was
sure.
not, it wasn't fun.
I will recommend the cancellation of that meeting. If anybody wants to make a motion. All
I'll make a motion to cancel July 25th meeting.
I'll second that.
right. All in favor?
All right, say aye, Jeff.
Jeff wants to go.
I,
It's nice to see his face, though, isn't it?
It is nice to see you.
When is our next meeting?
Shadow.
'Cause 2 weeks is Memorial Day, all right?
June 13th.
13th, so it's a month.
It's on the
All right.
bottom of the agenda. Oh,
That's because of Memorial Day, right?
Yeah,
oh.
The 30th?
June
No, that's
13th.
Memorial Day, it's the 13th of June, it's 4 weeks.
Oh.
Well, I'll work
That's
with
when
the
you were
scout.
saying, I'll see you in 2 weeks. So, John, I'm like, I think that's Memorial Day.
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
Memorial Day, so. you gotta
It's
wait
plenty of
till-
time for him to revise his plan.
Yeah, it's gonna take a little time, sure.
3 weeks is more than enough.
And plenty of time for Jane to find
Yeah,
time
he's
to meet
supposed,
with him. right?
that's
right.
right.
I'll meet with him, I'll do my little
Yeah.
Jamie
dog
will be
and
busy.
pony show, and, yeah. At the next meeting, one thing I didn't write in my report is I went out to London Estates last week, because they have a new
That's the one
environmental,
across from Dairy Queen, London Estates?
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's on-
next to Snow's.
That's on the next agenda.
It's on the next agenda, and it was all about the restoration area. They got a new guy there, and he deals with restoration areas all over the place, and he recommends not planting shrubs and such, but creating a meadow type of environment that can be mown, which, I disagree with some of the things that he said. He wants to nuke the area to get rid of the weeds that are there, but it'll be an interesting discussion.
You start with a blank slate, then you can make what you want.
Well, the thing is, he says, I couldn't find any evidence of any shrubs and stuff that had been planted. Well, hello, last fall, my notes say that I was reporting back to Page because they wanted the road accepted. I said, wait, the restoration's not done. And in fact, it looks like it's all been leveled so that they can plant,
No?
but they never did. So, that's going to be an interesting discussion.
28 Camp Road, did you want to get into any of that at all, or?
I was wondering what was going on there. He has actually put in the foundation, and when I was reviewing my notes for the draft minutes, we went back and forth, he went back and forth, everybody, so many times, and we've met with him so many times, and we've been playing ping pong, and it was hard to determine what was the last final decision. And I did meet out on the site with him and Carol Lundeen, his landscape restoration person. And we decided a few things, including that we did not want to have any herbicides used except perhaps after, there were wisteria vines, which are really invasive. And after they were pulled out, perhaps maybe daubing some new shoots as they came out. And then she looked into it, and she has her own company, and she said that she couldn't do it herself as an owner, as a non-homeowner,
licensed,
because she's not licensed. So he was going to do it, and we were going back and forth, and we have our general boilerplate conditions, no pesticides or herbicides. So I think that it's finally straightened out, but he has poured his foundation and has, I
He's
think,
backfilled, and he's got the stone wall in, or at least got
the retaining wall.
the retaining, yeah.
Okay.
He's got stones there and he started to create the retaining wall. And everything seemed like it was pretty much close to, what we had talked about and discussed as far as where the stone wall should be. The only thing that we left at last meeting was And when I went out there on Jane's request, was it this week, last week?
Last week.
Just to check on the status of it, because David had wanted us to check once a week and no one had looked at it, so I went out and looked at it. But when I got there, he'd filled, I thought we were just gonna fill the foundations that were creating the holes. But he had filled the foundations and he had gone behind them and backfilled the wall itself that was towards the water.
Yeah, and I thought I was supposed to be informed or give my blessing before that happened. And I did go out there a few weeks ago, and nothing had happened at all.
But I don't think he's done anything, he's done things out of order, I guess, or whatever the order was. It was still confused, because I had to, after I met with him and talked to him, I had to go back and read it, and then when I read the minutes,
It's
I was like,
confusing.
we were saying stuff, but nobody really said at the end, it's what we should do in these things. Is all right, this is what we're gonna do. You know, we're gonna have weekly visits, we're gonna have no filling of whatever, and really clearly spell it out. Because we had discussed so many things, and we just left it open. I don't even know if you were there for that meeting. but-
Kept pushing back and forth.
Yeah.
A lot of pushing back and forth.
Yeah, so we just need to make sure that when we finish a discussion with someone, especially when there's so many issues out there, that we summarize it and get him
Well,
something.
Bill Buckley usually does summarize at the end, saying, okay, this is what you want from me, this is what we're going to do, bing, 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 bing. So,
Yeah, he was in Florida, though,
okay, that's why.
right?
That's why I was confused. To be fair, I guess Carol has been in the midst of moving, and so she's not been completely accessible either. So when I met with her at the Lane property the Friday before last, she said she was going to be going to Camp Road after that. And I was like, oh, have you gone yet? And she hadn't so much. But what she did is she did flag all the
She flagged, yeah, like
invasives.
275.
There are a bajillion of them, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So it's hard to coordinate that stuff sometimes.
And so when I last spoke to him about the invasives, he was gonna pull them up, cut them, pull them up as far as they could, and then cut them, and then he was gonna dab it.
That's what we had talked to him about, because we showed him that these darn vines go on for loads of feet, and they were everywhere. And I said, you know, where the heck did it come from? I don't see any wisteria vines nearby. But I went to Alice Bradley's, 14 Alice Bradley, where the pool was put in not too long ago. I went there with Rich Leslie a couple days ago, and they, sure enough, in a corner of the yard, there was a wisteria infestation. I said, oh, you know, you want to get this one. And so the owner starts pulling. And the thing went from here to the other side of the room. And then the closer we looked, we realized it was everywhere. So the stuff is really invasive, virulent. It's going to be, Carol's going to have to keep after it to make sure that it doesn't come back, probably. But most people see green, and, you know, wisteria is pretty. It is pretty. So when we were looking at this plant over at Alice Bradley, I said, yeah, you should pull them all out as well as you can out of the ground. And then, you know, I noticed that the main plant had some flower buds. I said, cut them off with the flower buds and enjoy them, and then get rid of them. But, I mean, they're so pretty, but they're just ridiculous. They pull down mature oak trees. In Wellesley, they had trunks this big, and they were literally pulling over the trees. It was wild.
So
Most
what
people
do
don't
we
know.
want to tell Don?
I think he's on the right track. I think he
So
is. And Carol
let him
knows.
dab the hysteria.
La, 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 la. You know, if he does it as a homeowner, we can't
Yeah,
honestly stop him. But I think having a professional applicator, no. You know,
okay, because that's what he was planning on doing, based on the discussions.
well, we had talked to him about that.
Yeah.
And I was kind of an advocate for doing that until during the pandemic. I tried to get rid of the invasives in my meadow. And I dripped a couple drops on the plants, and I guess the roots must spread out, and it killed a whole big swath. It was disturbing. And a
From a
couple of
little dab on
rhododendrons and stuff too. What?
From a little dab on one plant, it got to the other plants?
Yeah. Well, they say trees communicate with each other
Yeah.
through the roots. I don't know, maybe plants
It's
do
all the,
too.
yeah, no, it's all the fungal,
Yeah.
is it the I forget what the layer is.
The
Mycorrhizae?
Yeah, that's it, thank you.
What'd you say?
Mycorrhizae?
Yeah. There's little white, little white fibers in the soil, but that's what all the They're like the,
Yeah, fungus,
the Amazon, ink for all the plants, like sending stuff back and
Yeah.
forth to each other.
yeah. If you've never seen
Can we
fantastic
adjourn?
fungi,
You guys want to keep talking?
this is all
He wants to go
educational.
home.
There you
She's
go.
like, yeah.
I knew she was
gonna ring
gonna-
it.
Someone want to make a
Make a
motion?
Watch
motion.
Fantastic Fungi.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So, Jane,
Have a second?
hold it.
Yeah, go ahead.
You will call him then.
Call who?
Don.
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 You're gonna
I've
call
already
Don.
written to him.
Oh, okay, all right,
I've already written to
Can I
him.
have a second?
all right. I'll give you a second then.
All right,
All
second.
in favor?
All right.
I,